Hello, cannedcream here, CC for short, and today I would like to talk to you about the new Lunar Republic and the Solar Empire.
The sun is a mass of incandescent gas.
Or, to be exact, how would this fan-made war actually turn out? The answer is Luna wins. Luna wins at everything because she is the best and the one true princess and everyone loves her. Well, thank you very much for watching. Post your own thoughts in the comments below, and as always...
Stay pony, my...
Oh, no you don't.
What the... Sweetie Bloom?
You're not getting away with this until you at least attempt to give a balanced perspective.
But Luna, she's my waifu.
Regardless, you have a job to do, and I'm here to make sure that you do it.
Fine. But it seems like a waste of time. You'll just end up agreeing with me by the end anyway. You'll see.
Yeah, sure.
Quiet you. I'm about to exposition. Both the new Lunar Republic and the Solar Empire are fan creations, celebrating those who believe the nation of Equestria should defect to a land strictly under Luna's rule, as opposed to those who remain loyal to Celestia as the one true princess. Since the show itself began, fans have argued over whether or not Celestia's banishment of her younger sister was just. Those who support Luna going as far as to call her actions tyrannical. And it is possible to see their point. After all, what we know about Equestria's history involving the royal sisters is narrated by Celestia herself. And you know what they say about history being written by the victor. On the flip side, those supporters of the Solar Empire claim that Luna is unfit to rule alone, and she will only succeed in doing what Nightmare Moon could not, plunging the land into eternal night. Since the battle began, fans have argued over which side the ponies of Equestria would take, what tactics either side would use, and ultimately, who would be victorious. And since some pony here is forcing me to actually be serious about this, I suppose we might as well follow these established topics and settle it once and for all. So, what do you say, sweetie? Feel like going to war?
Let's do this thing! Semper Fi!
Hoorah! Well, the best place to start would be dividing the ponies between both the Solar Empire and the Lunar Republic. An event such as this would be deeply polarizing, likely dividing some families in two. Maybe once upon a time this wouldn't be so, but times have changed. The reason Luna previously transformed into Nightmare Moon in the first place was because the pony slept through the night she created, making her feel unwanted and unloved. But remember that we're talking about a lifetime 1,000 years ago. Even if Equestria's timeline is only the vaguest hint similar to our own, around this time period for them, we're roughly in pony medieval times. Huh. I wonder what ponies rode on to joust.
Focus, CC.
Right, sorry. Anyway, we're talking about a time period where people, and likely ponies, lived and worked with the sun. That was their light source, that was their heat, that was their very livelihoods. Luna had the misfortune of living in a time where technology hadn't yet caught up with her. But now Equestria lives in a time more or less equal to our own. Mass transit, electricity, skyscrapers, dense cities, they have it all. And with that, I feel it's safe to assume that life in Equestria has evolved to a 24-hour affair. Just like our own lives, there are ponies that live and work and play in the moonlight. Luna is bound to have her own devout followers among the pony population. And perhaps even among the main six. Wouldn't you agree, sweetie?
I suppose that's true. Different ponies have different priorities. Take, for example, Applejack and Rarity. Applejack definitely still works in accordance with the sun, whereas Rarity would be more of the modern pony you're talking about and work on a 24-hour schedule. In fact, we've seen Applejack specifically hold off her work until the sun rises, and Rarity staying up all night to finish an order.
Exactly. AJ's on Celestia's side for sure. And considering that her and Rarity are almost always butting heads, it's only fitting that Rarity would be on Luna's side. Makes sense too, the nightlife would be more suited for a mare of her tastes and dreams. I suppose that next there's Twilight and Rainbow Dash. Twilight sides with Celestia. And in other news, water is wet, fire is hot, and Spike is life's punching bag. Now as for Rainbow Dash, I've seen more than a few people group her in Luna's team, and mostly for the same reasons as Rarity, because she and AJ are often at odds. And I'd love to support that, but sadly I can't. Because in episode 2, when being tempted to abandon her friends by the Shadow Bolts, Dash herself says she will always be loyal to Princess Celestia, and I intend to believe her. While the splitting of the group would most likely tear at Rainbow's loyalty, she'd likely stick by the princess she knows, and not to mention the one that personally declared her the winner of the Best Flyer competition.
When it comes to Rainbow Dash, I reach the same conclusion, but with different reasoning. She would instinctively want to support Luna, but not because she's against Applejack. If anything, Applejack and Rainbow Dash are always at heads for the opposite reason that Applejack and Rarity are. Instead of being too different, they're too similar. So I don't think her relationship with Applejack is the reason she would be on Luna's side. Rather, let's think about life under the moon. In the darkness of night, the job of a weather pony would be much more slack, since a cloud in the sky isn't going to make much of a difference. Or is that just a city girl talking? So she'd have more time to practice and do what she's always done when she should be working. Napping. She seems to like napping during the day and partying at night, so I see her as a bit nocturnal myself. But her loyalty is an issue to be sure. She has been stated to be loyal to the princess, but I think there's one princess she's even more loyal to. Twilight. Rainbow would be in Celestia's side because Twilight was. And when the line is drawn in the sand, even though she may love the night, I think Rarity would do the same thing. Moving on to Fluttershy, I think she'd be inclined to be on Celestia's side from the get-go. Somehow I get the impression that she's afraid of the dark. And Pinkie Pie... well, Pinkie would be on Celestia's side because... fun? After all, it's where her friends are. Just as long as Luna doesn't bring chocolate rain, I think Pinkie would stick with the rest of the main six.
There's actually an interesting fan theory that I enjoy quite a bit. It suggests that Fluttershy would actually refuse to join either side in this battle and instead forms a separate entity, the Peace Corps, a sort of rogue group that is not loyal to either side and instead works to save lives and bring about peace. Sort of like Equestria's version of Leslie Tompkins from the Batman series. She doesn't care about sides, she just wants to help. And this does seem like a very Fluttershy thing to do. More often than not, she's trying to avoid conflicts or quell them before they get out of hand.
That makes sense, assuming she had enough will to defy peer pressure.
And as for Pinkie, yeesh, who can even say? This is Pinkie we're talking about here. Trying to understand her logic is like trying to understand what a cat is thinking. I would agree that she would most likely go where her friends went, but her friends have already been split. I can't imagine her being able to pick either side. And besides, we have seen in episodes like Swarm the Century that she will go against her friends to do her own thing if she thinks it's right. Heck, maybe she'd never pick one side at all and just bounce back and forth between alliances depending on her mood. Imagine if she went back to the mirror pond and cloned herself. She'd be fighting on both sides at once and she wouldn't be letting down any of her friends. Oh man, what is it about Pinkie Pie that suddenly makes everything much more complicated?
It's her way, I guess. Figuring out what side Pinkie Pie is on is like figuring out which Hogwarts house she'd be in. What? Doesn't everyone do that? She might be on one side or both or neither, but as I said before, except for maybe Fluttershy, and the jury's still out on that one, the main six would mostly be together fighting for Celestia.
Yeah, looking at the scoreboard, we have Twilight, AJ, and Rainbow Dash on Celestia's corner, Rarity and Luna's, and Fluttershy and Pinkie doing who knows what. However you slice it, so far things are tipping in favor of Celestia. Sweetie, I don't like this game anymore. The logic is turning against me.
Live long and prosper.
Apparently Sanity is leaving now too. Right, well, that covers the main cast, but Equestria is still a sprawling country with ponies from all over. Take the Royal Guard, for instance. While they claim to be loyal to the princess, you have to wonder who they would really side with. It's possible that the Guard was split upon Luna's return, with some being assigned to Celestia while others joined Luna's side. It could be why Luna seems to have her own private bat ponies, though it is possible those were just guards in costume.
That's one hell of a costume!
The show seems to play the Royal Guard as very professional and deeply loyal. It's likely that, no matter what their personal beliefs were, each side would remain loyal to its own designated princess.
That seems about right. It seems like the two princesses do have their own branches, though how they set Luna's up so quickly, I'm not so sure. Maybe she got the reserves? Regardless, no pun intended, the white-coated guards would be for Celestia and the gray coats for Luna. Of course, then Flash Sentry comes in and confuses everything, but that's not the point. Certainly the Bat Ponies are with Luna, which throws a wrench into Fluttershy's alignment. Huh. Anyway, likely the armed forces would be split pretty evenly.
Just one more reason to dislike Blandy McNo character. We had a system, damn it! I'm alright. I'm calm. Who else do we have? Big Mac and the Apples? They're sticking together for sure, so that's another for Celestia.
Likely, but I imagine Apple Bloom being a little more split on it, as Sweetie Belle would likely be on Luna's side since they understand each other so well.
Ooh, good point. Who does she stay loyal to? Her friends or her family?
I see Apple Bloom not making a choice, so maybe she starts the Peace Corps? Also, even though Luna has helped Scootaloo out, I think Scoots would stick with her sister.
It is hard seeing Scoots abandoning Rainbow. So that leaves one Crusader on Luna's side, one on Celestia's, and one in the Corps. Man, they are not kidding when they say war is hell.
Oh, and what if Button were on Celestia's side and we have a lovely Romeo and Juliet romance and I'm getting off topic. I see Dr. Hooves, and by extension Derpy, either heading the Peace Corps or not affiliating with anyone and trying to fix the problem their own way.
For sure. While I always love the idea of Derpy as Luna's general, I have to admit it's because it's a combination of my two favorite characters.
Focus, Can.
I'm focusing. Let's see. As for Vinyl Scratch, Luna, that DJ is definitely a night owl. And by extension, I'm putting Octavia in that category too. She always did strike me as a mare the exact opposite of Vinyl in style, but her twin in essence.
Yeah, Vinyl loves the nightlife, and Octi's sticking with her waifu. Speaking of waifus, Lyrabon would be, drinking tea on the sidelines? For some reason, I don't see the two bothering themselves in politics. Unless one side promises to bring humans to Equestria, then Lyra's all over that.
Sweet oats on toast! Lyra would be an unstoppable killing machine of adorable obsession. What about Sakura? Think she'd take a side in this?
Well, it's possible she'd be on the side of the night, but I see her more likely taking the balanced approach. So add one more to the Peace Corps.
Huh, the Peace Corps is putting up a better fight than I thought. Ooh, Trixie! A chance to show up Twilight Sparkle? Oh, she is on Luna's side for sure.
Most definitely. That, or she would try to take over Equestria herself and start her own petition, the Great and Powerful Trixie Regime. Likely a one-mare army. Speaking of grudges, Gilda with Luna, you think?
Without knowing how Griffin society work, I can't even begin to guess. But if we're talking just Gilda, yeah, probably just out of spite to Rainbow. She does seem like the kind that would go to war over a grudge. And as long as we're talking antagonists, then how about Flim and Flam? There is no way these two would pass up a chance to make some easy money off the war. Considering they're loyal to no one but themselves, I'm guessing they'd provide their services to whoever paid the best.
I don't even think they'd limit themselves to just that. Likely they'd sell a weapon to one side and then turn around and sell the same weapon to the other side. I don't think the two would want the war to end. Far too good for business. Speaking of, I think the Wonderbolts are with Celestia, given their history.
Yeah, she can have them. The more we see of those guys, the more of a liability they seem. Except Soren. Soren's cool. Probably wouldn't hurt for Luna to pull some of her own followers together and form an actual Shadow Bolt team, though. I think we're running low on characters now, sweetie. What's the count so far?
It looks like 11 for Celestia, 6 for Luna, and 9 neutral are in the Peace Corps. Even the ones fighting for peace can beat out Luna. But there is still one force we haven't reckoned with. One being who would tip the scales considerably. Basically, whoever's team he's on would most definitely win.
Who's that?
Discord.
I'm howling at the moon and sleeping in the middle of... Sorry. Okay, I admit that's a good point. Celestia and Luna sealed him away, but it was Celestia that freed him the second time and gave him a chance to reform. So that seems like it would put him on Celestia's side. However, Fluttershy is his closest friend, and clearly the one he actually cares for. So that would put him on the Peace Corps side. However, this is Discord, and Chaos is pretty much his bread and butter, so maybe that puts him on Luna's side? And geez, sweetie, I think you just turned this into a four-way brawl. I don't think Discord would want to take anyone's side here. Far too easy to imagine him playing each side against each other and reveling in the chaos.
Yes, Discord is most definitely a wild card. Would he stick with Celestia because of their fanship, or Fluttershy because of their fanship? Or would he throw everyone for a loop and join Luna just to fight against Twilight or something? If I know anything about Star Trek, it might go something similar to how you said. Fighting for both sides, seemingly fanning the flames, only to have it end in peace, and you realize that's what he was planning all along. but honestly, I think there's no way to predict Discord's actions, so we might have to call this a moot point.
Point for everyone! Or point for Discord. Whatever, let's move on. So, we have our teams built, our sides divided, and our armies rallied. Now, for the most important part of all, their tactics, strategies, and powers. Does the reign of Celestia continue? Does Luna clinch the victory, or do we all give peace a chance? Let's start with Miss Spun in the Sun herself, Celestia. There's no doubting that when it comes to magic, Celestia is in a league of her own, overthrowing some of Equestria's greatest evils, as well as possessing the raw strength to hoofedly raise and lower the sun itself. Celestia can bring the pain. However, she is something of a glass cannon, and her powers are not infinite. Both Nightmare Moon and Chrysalis were able to overpower her, and as strong as her offense is, she can't really take a hit before going down. And in most cases, she needed to boost her power in some way, either by relying on Twilight and her friends, or the elements of harmony. And in this case, it does not matter when in the timeline of our story this battle takes place. If it's after Season 4, the elements are gone from the picture entirely, and if it's before, the main 6 have already been split 3 ways, thus making the elements kinda useless. There's no debating that Celestia would be able to fight right alongside her armies, but she would require constant protection without the elements to boost her power, and she would become an easy target. Without a princess, the Solar Army falls apart. She would need to be put away far from the battlefields at all times, kind of wasting her power.
True. I don't see Celestia being okay sitting in a bunker with her subjects fighting in her stead, especially since the force they're fighting against is her sister. More likely than not, she would want to be front and center, maybe in a vain hope of protecting all her subjects and reasoning with her sister. But it is also true that she's not quite as powerful as some ponies are led to believe. If she can be taken down by the love of 2 ponies, it's not out of the realm of possibility that she might be taken down if it weren't for Twilight. Twilight has grown to become quite the force to reckon with, and with her and most of her friends fighting on the side of the sun, I think it's likely that at the very least the defenses wouldn't crumble so easily.
Yeah, it's true that Celestia would have some very powerful magic on her side, just with Twilight alone. Of course, that power does tend to be a double-edged sword. For every time Twilight has successfully cast a spell, look at how many have backfired. And many of those were done under optimal conditions. Throw in the stress of a war zone, and Twilight could very well be as much of a threat to her own side as the other. If MLP has taught us anything, it's that hearing Twilight say, "I think I have a spell for this," is a sign to run. Run far away.
Well, from what I've seen, Twilight's best spells run on adrenaline. When push comes to shove, she seems to perform better under pressure. If we take the season bookends as an indication, Twilight's plans tend to go awry only for her to pull the answer out of her heart in the last minute. I think her major flaw is more likely her inexperience. In the same fight with Chrysalis that Celestia struck out, Twilight didn't even get up to bat, so I believe her greatest weakness is youth, not pressure.
Which can still be a fault. What it will come down to is whether or not her raw talent can make up for that very lack of experience. Honestly, I'd give more credit to both AJ and Rainbow Dash here. We've seen from the show that both can hold their own very well against any threat. It's not hard to see them leading the charge from both the air and the ground.
True, they would be susceptible to magic attacks, and AJ's not as fast as Rainbow, and Rainbow's not as strong as AJ, but they may be able to hold their own for a while. Rarity has been shown to have a fierce side when she's pushed too far, and Pinkie Pie... I don't even want to know what Pinkie Pie might be capable of when forced with an ultimatum.
The world would not survive. Any of them. Ever. Switching gears over to Luna's side, we come to a bit of a problem. Unlike Celestia, we've never really seen Luna use her powers in a battle without either the use of the elements or in her Nightmare Moon state, thus making it a little hard to judge her power. While she did manage to outmatch her sister in single combat, we have no way of knowing just how much stronger her powers were while Nightmare Moon. But clearly they were enough to possibly banish her sister to the freaking sun. So if we cannot accurately measure her offensive power, then let's look at what we do know. she is the princess of the night, and in being so, she has the power to enter other ponies' dreams. Now imagine that kind of power weaponized. She could possibly pop into the heads of Celestia's generals to find out their battle plans and squad formations. She could keep entire troops in a constant state of confusion and fear by bombarding their sleep with horrible nightmares. There's a lot that can be said about company morale, and if Luna could keep the other sides low enough, you have the possibility of facing a company of soldiers too afraid to sleep, leaving them groggy and weakened. I think this is where the Lunar Republic really makes up for their lack of direct strength.
It's true that as far as we know, Luna's power would probably be best served in the psychological warfare than a physical one. But for some reason, I just don't see Luna using this power to that degree. We've seen her use the power for a great purpose, but I think Luna would think twice before manipulating people's minds like that. She might win the war that way, but she would never be loved, and I think that's what she might want most of all. Still, getting a leg up on the possible attacks would be useful, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe I'm a little sadistic.
Just a bit.
Quiet, you. I will give you that, despite the array of uses Luna powers would grant her, she may be too afraid of being seen as a tyrant or a monster by actually using them. Even if she wins this war, what would ponies say about her after? So we have one side with a lot of offensive power, but not much going in defense, and another with a ton of defensive strength, but not enough means to turn it into offense. Wow, sweetie, it looks like we have a stalemate.
Looks like it's peace after all.
So after all of this, what we're saying is, in this land of friendship, love, and peace, the single greatest war their country has ever seen ends in friendship, love, and peace.
Yeah.
Is it weird I kind of feel ripped off?
Yes. I know you love Luna and all, but peace is the greatest weapon of all. We may all have our differences, but this is our world and we have to find a way of coexisting.
Yeah, I guess you're right, sweetie. It doesn't really matter whether or not you support the Solar Empire, the Lunar Republic, or the Peace Corps. In the end, all that matters is that we agree Earth ponies are the master race.
Yeah! Wait.
Thank you very much for watching. Post your own thoughts about the Great Lunar Celestia War in the comments below. Be sure to visit Sweetie Bloom's channel, and, as always,
Stay pony, my friend.